last time they saw you, something happened that they were not prepared for. Not in the dramatic, visible, anyone watching could have noticed sense. In the interior sense. In the private, behind the composed exterior, this is happening in me, and I am the only one who knows it. Sense of something shifting in a person without their permission and without their planning and without any of the ordinary warning that significant internal shifts tend to provide. They saw you, and something happened. They have been living with what happened ever since. Not dramatically, they are functioning, moving through their life, doing everything that daily life requires of a person who is doing everything that daily life requires. But underneath the functioning in the private interior space that their daily life does not have access to, what happened the last time they saw you has been sitting, refusing to settle into the category of something ordinary, refusing to be processed into the past the way ordinary things get processed, insisting on remaining present, alive, specific in the particular way of something that has not yet finished happening, even though the moment that produced it is technically over. The moment is technically over. The experience is not, and that distinction between the moment having ended and the experience of it continuing is what this reading is about. What happened in them when they saw you last, what it produced, what it has been doing in the days since, and what it means for everything that comes next between you. Drop the word happened in the comments right now and subscribe to this channel if you are not already here, because what I am about to show you, the full interior, this is what was actually occurring in them while you were together picture of the last time they saw you, is going to recontextualize that experience entirely. You were there. You have your version of it. What you are about to receive is theirs. And the two versions are not the same story. Let me begin with the setting of the last time. Not the physical setting necessarily, though the physical setting matters in the way that all contexts matter, because where two people are shapes how they are and what they are able to be. The emotional setting, the interior landscape that each of you brought to that encounter, the specific quality of where they were when they walked into the last time they saw you. They were managing something. Going into that encounter, this person was in some version of the particular practiced management that they apply to whatever exists between you and what they feel about it. Not dishonestly. The management is not deception. It is the specific self-containment of someone who has a significant feeling and who has not yet found the moment or the method or the courage to express it fully, who has been carrying what they carry about you in the private way that they always carry it, with discipline and with the particular daily effort of someone who is keeping something at a level that is functional rather than letting it be the full unmanaged size it actually is. They walked into the last time they saw you in that managed state, composed, contained, operating from behind the particular composure of someone who has practiced keeping a specific feeling at arm's length and who is good at the practice even when the practice requires real effort. And then they saw you. And the composure did something it was not supposed to do. It slipped. Not completely, not in a way that was visible, not in a way that you necessarily registered or that anyone else present would have been able to identify as a slip, but internally, in the specific, private, only they know it way of something cracking under pressure that has been building longer than it was designed to hold. the management held on the outside. On the inside, something gave way. Let me describe what happened in the moment of seeing you. The specific, immediate, before any thought has time to form, response of their interior to the fact of your presence. The first thing was physical, a response in the body before the mind had any involvement, the specific, involuntary. This is not a decision quality of what happens to a person's body when it encounters something it recognizes as significant. A quality of heightened awareness, of suddenly being very present in the room in a way that was different from how present they had been before you arrived, of everything in their field of perception organizing itself without their instruction around the fact of you. This is not something they chose. It is something that happened to them. The distinction matters because it tells you something about the quality of what they carry, something that operates below the level of decision, that does not require their cooperation or their permission, that simply occurs when you are present in the same space. That kind of response is not manufactured. It is not the result of effort or intention. It is the body's honest communication about what the interior recognizes as important before the managed, composed exterior has time to catch up. The second thing was recognition. The specific arrived again. There you are quality of an interior that has been thinking about someone and then encounters that someone in real life and has the particular experience of the thought and the reality converging. You were in their thoughts before they saw you. In the way that you are always in their thoughts consistently, specifically, with the particular quality of someone who has become a permanent resident of their interior landscape. And when you appeared in the physical reality of their life, something in them had the specific wordless experience of alignment, of the inside and the outside, of their experience of you matching each other in the same moment. The third thing, and this is the one that produced the slip and the composure, the thing that has been sitting in them since the last time and refusing to resolve was the specific, sudden, clarity producing quality of being in your actual presence. Because there is a difference between carrying someone in thought and being with them in reality. Thought is something you manage. Reality is something you encounter. And the encounter, the specific, unmediated, this is them in 3 dimensions experience of your actual presence is harder to manage than the thought, has more force, more specificity, more of the particular qualities that produce the feeling in the first place, all present simultaneously in a way that makes the management of the feeling significantly more effortful. Something in them, in the moment of encountering your actual presence, gave up on the management. Not the external management that held, the internal management, the part that keeps the feeling at the controlled level. That part simply could not maintain itself in the face of you actually being there. And what surfaced in the gap left by its failure was the feeling in something closer to its actual size. What specifically happened to them during the time you were together? What was the interior experience of being with you in that encounter? Because what was happening inside them while the ordinary exterior of the interaction was occurring is the most important thing in this reading. And I want to describe it with the full precision the cards are offering me. They were hyper aware of you, every detail, not in the calculating, strategic way of someone who is studying something for an ulterior purpose. In the specific, helpless, I cannot seem to look at anything else way of someone whose attention has been captured by something it cannot release. the specific thing you said that landed in them in a particular way, the specific moment when you looked a certain way or laughed a certain way or were simply present in the particular completely yourself way that you are always present when you are not performing for anyone. All of it registered. All of it was accumulated in the thorough, attentive, I am going to return to this later way of someone who understands they are in the presence of something they want to remember. They were also managing what they wanted to say. There were things, specific things, genuine things, things that existed at the intersection of what they feel and what the moment seemed to be creating space for that came close to the surface during the time you were together. Sentences that began forming internally without finishing. Truths that rose toward expression and then were redirected at the last moment by the part of them that was still maintaining the external composure. Moments when the gap between what was happening on the inside and what was being offered on the outside was at its most acute. You may have felt something in those moments without being able to identify what it was, a quality of the conversation being slightly denser than the words themselves, of something being present between you that was not being named, of the encounter having an undertow, a pull towards something beneath the surface that neither of you fully acknowledged. That undertow was real. It was the managed, almost expressed, came close and then didn't truth of what they were carrying, making itself felt in the space between you without quite breaking the surface. Now, let me tell you about the moment that produced the most significant thing. The specific moment in the encounter that is the reason this reading exists. The thing that happened to them that has been sitting in them since, and that is the real center of everything. There was a moment when you were not aware they were looking, a moment of your attention being elsewhere directed at something or someone other than them, or simply at the private interior of your own thoughts in the way that people briefly disappear into themselves, even in the middle of social interaction, a moment when you were not performing anything for their benefit. When you were simply, completely, without awareness of being observed, yourself, they were watching. And what they saw in that unguarded moment, what the unperformed, completely natural, nobody is looking version of you looked like, to someone who was looking with a specific quality of attention that only genuine feeling produces, is what undid them. Not dramatically, not in a way they could have fully described if asked. In the specific, quiet, interior way of something that arrives not with fanfare, but with completeness, a recognition, the specific, this is what this is, no more managing, the size of it, recognition of someone who has been carrying a feeling in the controlled version and who has just had an encounter with the uncontrolled reality that the feeling has been a controlled version of they understood something in that moment with a completeness they had not previously had about what you are to them, about what the feeling is, about what the feeling is pointing toward and what it is asking and what they need to do about it in a way that they have not yet done. The understanding arrived completely and quietly and without warning, and it has been sitting in them fully formed since the moment it arrived. What has it been doing in them since? What is the experience of carrying something that arrived with that quality of completeness, that kind of full, sudden, nothing can be managed back to a smaller size understanding through the days that have followed the last time they saw you? It has been making everything else slightly insufficient. The specific Now that I have seen this clearly quality of someone who cannot unsee what they have seen, who moves through their ordinary life in the aftermath of a significant internal shift and finds that the ordinary life has a slightly different quality than it had before the shift. Not worse exactly, just different. Slightly less complete, slightly more aware of the specific named absence of the thing, the shift made visible. It has been producing urgency, a growing quality of I need to do something about this that has been accumulating since the last time they saw you, with the specific momentum of something that has arrived at the point of no longer being manageable as an interior experience. The understanding came with its own implicit demand. Having seen clearly what is true, continuing to carry it privately without acting on it has become increasingly uncomfortable in a way that did not exist before the seeing. And it has been producing specific thoughts about you, not general, ambient, you are in my thoughts, specific ones about the particular moment, about what they wish they had said in the encounter, about what they are going to say the next time, about what the next time is going to look like and when it is going to happen and what they are going to do differently when it does. They are planning the next time, not dramatically, not with elaborate strategy, simply with the quiet, natural, this is what I need to do intentionality of someone who has arrived at a decision and who is now moving toward its execution. The decision is about you. The execution is going to involve you. And the timeline on the execution is shorter than any previous timeline because the urgency is higher than it has ever been. I want to speak to something about the last time from your perspective, about your side of the encounter, because you were there and you had your own experience of it, and the cards are showing me something about that experience that is worth naming. You felt something was different, not dramatically, not in a way that produced a clear, articulable understanding of what you were in the presence of, but something, a quality in the encounter that was slightly denser than the encounters that preceded it. A quality in how they were with you that had a particular, slightly harder to read quality of someone who is managing something in your presence. A quality of the space between you having more in it than the surface of the conversation would account for. You noticed this and probably did what Virgo does with things it notices but cannot fully verify, filed it carefully in the category of things to observe further before drawing conclusions, gave it weight without acting on the weight, stored it with the thoroughness that Virgo stores everything that might eventually matter. It matters. What you felt in the last encounter was accurate. The density was real. The something is being managed quality was real. The undertow was real. And the specific, slightly different quality of how they were with you, the heightened attention, the moments of almost saying something, the particular quality of someone whose interior and exterior are not in full alignment was the real experience of being in the presence of someone who saw you and had something happen that they were not prepared for. Your perception was correct. It was always going to be correct. Virgo's perception of real things is one of the most reliable instruments available to the human interior. Trust what you felt in the last encounter and prepare for what is coming from them in the aftermath of it. What is coming? What do the cards show me about the next time, the one they are planning, the one that is going to be different from the last time in specific and significant ways? What I see is intention. The next encounter between you is not going to have the quality of the managed, composed, keeping the feeling at arm's length quality that has characterized how they have been with you previously. Something changed in them the last time they saw you. The understanding that arrived completely and quietly and without warning has altered the context of everything that follows. And the altered context means the next time cannot simply be a repeat of the previous dynamic. They are coming with something to say, not necessarily a prepared speech. This person is not the prepared speech type. Something more genuine than that. The specific, honest, I have been carrying this and I am going to say it quality of someone who has arrived at the decision that the time for managing and composing and keeping things at the controlled level has passed. That what happened to them the last time they saw you has moved things past the point where the management is sufficient or honest or fair to either of you. What they are going to say is going to name the thing, the actual thing, not a careful, deniable version of it, but the real one, the one that the last time they saw you made impossible to continue carrying privately, the one that the moment of watching you be completely yourself, unaware of being watched, produced in them with such completeness that they have not been able to reduce it back to something smaller since. The saying of it is going to be the thing. The moment that the last time built toward without completing the completion of something that the previous encounter started and left unfinished, the full truth of what happened to them when they saw you, finally given the expression it has been requiring since it arrived. One last thing before we close. One thing that I want to say directly to you about the last time and about what it means that this happened. You did something without knowing you did it. In the ordinary course of being who you are, in the unremarkable, completely yourself, no particular effort quality of your presence in that encounter you produced in another person, an experience they were not prepared for and have not recovered from, not through strategy or performance or any deliberate attempt to create an effect, simply by being completely unguardedly, entirely yourself in a moment when they happen to be looking with the specific quality of attention that genuine feeling provides. That is what you did. And the fact that you did it without trying, that the effect was produced by the simple, natural, unremarkable quality of your actual presence rather than any performed version of it, is the most significant thing about it, because it tells you that what happened to them is a response to the real you, not a version of you, not a you that was managed for their benefit, the actual unperformed, completely individual you that exists when no one is performing anything. That you, the unguarded, simply itself you, is extraordinary enough to undo someone's composure without trying. That is worth knowing. That is worth carrying into whatever comes next. The next time is coming. And it is coming with the full weight of everything that happened to them the last time. Be ready to receive it completely.